Tomorrow, America celebrates 250 years of independence. For the next several days, millions of Americans will wave flags, light fireworks, celebrate freedom, and pledge allegiance to the nation. There's nothing surprising about that. What may surprise you is what I'm about to say next. For months, I've wrestled with whether I would make this message public. Some of you will be inspired by it. Some of you will be deeply offended. Some may never listen to another word I say. I've made peace with that, because there comes a point when remaining silent becomes a greater failure than speaking plainly. Tonight, I'm not asking you to vote for anyone. I'm not asking you to join another movement. I'm not asking you to protest. I'm asking you one question that I believe every Christian in America must answer honestly. Who is your king? Before you answer too quickly, listen carefully, because if Jesus really is king, then everything else must change. And for some of you, this may become your exodus. If you're watching this and you consider yourself a Christian, this message is for you. Not for the atheist, not for the politician, not for the media, not for the activist, for you. The one who says Jesus is king. Because I have one question. If Jesus really is king, why are you still living like Caesar has the final word? Think about your last 5+ years. How much time, how much emotion, how much fear, how much hope, how much outrage, how much conversation, how much prayer was consumed by politics? How many friendships have been damaged? How many churches have been divided? How many families have been fractured? How many hours have been sacrificed to an endless stream of headlines, debates, scandals, campaigns, and elections? And after all of it, what has actually changed? Every election was supposed to save the country. Every candidate was supposed to be different. Every movement promised renewal. Every crisis demanded your attention. Every 4 years you were told, this is the most important election of your lifetime. Again and again and again. How many times must the same promise fail before you stop believing it? You were never called to save America. You were called to proclaim a kingdom. Somewhere along the way, many of you stopped believing that. Without realizing it, you traded the Great Commission for political obsession. This isn't a new temptation. It is one of the oldest sins in the history of God's people. In 1 Samuel 8, when Israel stood before Samuel, they didn't reject Samuel, they rejected God with their allegiance. They looked at the nations around them and said, "Give us a king like all the other nations." On the surface, it sounded practical, responsible, even patriotic. But God saw what was really happening. He told Samuel, "They have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them." Think about that. Israel didn't stop believing in God. They simply stopped believing that his reign was enough. They wanted what everyone else had: a visible ruler, a political solution, a human system they could trust. And in that moment, politics became an idol. An idol isn't merely something you worship. It is anything you look to for your provision and protection. Anything you look to for security, identity, hope, or salvation. That is exactly what most of you have done today. You still sing, "Jesus is King," but when you spend your years acting as though everything depends on another king, you say Christ sits on the throne, yet your emotions rise and fall with elections. Your peace rises and falls with opinion polls. Your hope rises and falls with whatever occupies the public office. That should trouble you, because the issue was never whether Israel believed in God. The issue was whether they believed God was enough. And perhaps the most uncomfortable question every American Christian must answer is this: has politics become the modern golden calf, or the modern king that quietly receives the trust that belongs to Christ alone? You traded discipleship for partisanship. You traded kingdom thinking for election cycles. You started acting as though the future of Christ's kingdom depended on who occupied political office. Tell me, when did Jesus ever say that? When did Peter? When did John? When did Paul? When the rulers threatened the apostles, they did not organize a campaign. When they were arrested, they did not panic. When they were told to be quiet, they did not compromise. They simply answered, "We must obey God rather than men." That wasn't a slogan, it was their allegiance. Jesus warned his disciples, "The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, but it shall not be so among you." Not so among you. Listen to those words again. The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, but it shall not be so among you. He wasn't giving campaign advice. He was describing two completely different ways of living. Two kingdoms, two loyalties, two futures. One says, change the rulers and everything will improve. The other says, Christ already reigns, now go and live like it. Those are not remotely the same message. And you cannot build the kingdom of God by endlessly chasing the kingdoms of men. You know this, deep down, and you already know this. You know the outrage never ends. You know the fear never stops. You know the machine always demands more. More attention, more anxiety, more allegiance, more of your heart. It never says enough. Because systems built on fear can only survive by producing more fear. And every hour you spend believing the next political victory will finally bring righteousness is another hour you are not building the kingdom Christ commanded you to build. So hear me carefully. This is not a call to hate your country. This is not a call to withdrawal from your neighbors. This is not a call to become indifferent to justice. It is a call to stop confusing the kingdom of God with the kingdoms of men. It is a call to stop trying to baptize a pagan system into becoming the kingdom. You cannot. Rome never became the kingdom. Jerusalem never became the kingdom. No pagan nation ever has. Christ did not command you to repair Caesar's throne. He commanded you to make disciples. So exit. Come out. Come out of the endless outrage. Come out of the addiction to political identity. Come out of the illusion that one more election will finally solve what only Christ can transform. This is your exodus, not from your neighborhood, not from your job, not from your responsibilities, from your misplaced allegiance. Leave Egypt behind. Stop asking Pharaoh to become Moses. Stop waiting for Caesar to become Christ. Stop sending your children to Caesar for their education. Stop expecting politics to produce what only the king can produce. Instead, build. Build families that love one another. Build businesses marked by integrity. Build neighborhoods where people know your name. Build churches that make disciples instead of spectators. Build communities where widows and orphans are cared for before the state ever hears their names. Build networks of generosity. Build schools of wisdom. Build friendships that outlast elections. Build beauty. Build justice. Build mercy. Build truth. Build the kind of life that makes people ask, where did this come from? And answer them, from the reign of Christ. That is how the early Christians turned the world upside down. Not because they captured Rome, because they became something Rome could never manufacture. That same opportunity stands before you now. So today, choose. Not between parties, between kingdoms. Choose where your allegiance will rest. Choose which kingdom you will serve. Choose which future you will spend your life building. And if your answer is Jesus Christ, then let this be the last day you measure your hope by headlines. Let this be the last day you surrender your peace to elections. Let this be the last day you ask a pagan system to become the kingdom of God. Walk out of it. Walk free. Walk together. Walk as citizens of the kingdom that Christ has established. And then build. Build so faithfully, love so boldly, serve so generously, live so differently, that your neighbors no longer ask, "Who are you voting for?" They ask, "Who is your king?" And without hesitation, you answer, "Jesus Christ. He reigns, and that is why I am free." Now come, the Exodus begins with a single step. Take it.